Have you ever truly wondered what happens to your own happiness when you spend your entire life trying to make everyone else happy? Not in a motivational quote kind of way, but in a painfully real, irreversible way. Today I turned 83 years old. There was no celebration, no laughter, no one around me, just silence filling the corners of my home. And in that silence, I finally understood something I had ignored for decades. My name is Robert Mitchell, and what I'm about to share is not just my story. It's a warning written through years of quiet regret and missed moments. I'm sitting alone in a quiet house in a small town in Ohio, staring out the window as life unfolds for others. I see families laughing, children running freely, parents calling them in for dinner. There is warmth out there, connection, life. But inside this house there is nothing but stillness. A cold cup of coffee sits beside me, untouched. The walls feel heavier with every passing second. This house was once meant to be full of love, but now it only holds echoes of decisions I made, decisions that slowly pushed away everything that truly mattered in my life. Everything started back in 1965 when I was just 23 years old, full of ambition and hope. I had just graduated as an accountant and landed a job at a small firm in Cleveland. On my first day, my manager told me something that sounded simple but shaped my entire life. Put clients first if you want to succeed. I took those words seriously, too seriously. What I didn't realize at that moment was that I wasn't just prioritizing clients. I was unknowingly preparing myself to neglect every other part of my life that needed my attention just as much. At first it felt like the right thing to do. I thought I was being responsible, dedicated, someone who would build a strong future. But slowly, without even noticing, I began placing everyone else above my own life, above my family, above my happiness. In 1967, I married Margaret, a kind and loving woman who believed deeply in family and connection. We went to Paris for our honeymoon, a dream she had cherished for years. But just a few days in, I received a call from work, and without hesitation, I made a choice that would define my future. I cut our honeymoon short because a client needed me. I remember Margaret's face clearly, disappointment hidden behind a forced smile. I told her it was for our future, that sacrifices were necessary. She nodded, but something in her eyes changed that day. What I didn't understand back then was that love cannot survive on promises of later. Every time you choose something else over the people who love you, you slowly teach them where they stand in your life. And over time, those small disappointments grow into emotional distance that becomes impossible to repair. When our son David was born in 1970, I was physically present at the hospital, but mentally I was somewhere else. I was thinking about work, about deadlines, about responsibilities that suddenly felt more urgent than the moment in front of me. I should have been holding Margaret's hand, sharing that life-changing experience with her. Instead, I was distracted. That moment passed, and I told myself I would be more present next time. But the truth is, next time never comes when you keep choosing the same priorities over and over again. I missed David's first steps. I wasn't there when he said his first word. These are moments parents dream about, but I traded them for meetings and business dinners. At the time, I convinced myself it was worth it. I believed I was building a better life for my family. But I didn't realize that while I was busy building a future, I was missing the present, and the present is where life actually happens. Those moments never come back, no matter how successful you become or how much money you earn later. In 1973, my daughter Emily was born, and I promised myself things would be different this time. I wanted to be a better father, more involved, more present. But life had already set its pattern. I had been promoted, and with that came more responsibilities and less time. Margaret often tried to remind me that the children needed me, not just financially, but emotionally. But I always had the same answer: I'm doing this for them. What I didn't realize was that love isn't built through money. It's built through time, attention, and presence. In 1978, my father suffered a heart attack. He lived just an hour away, yet I delayed visiting him. I told myself I was busy, that work couldn't wait. When I finally saw him, he looked at me and said something that stayed with me forever. Money has no value in the grave. Memories do. But even then, I didn't fully understand. 2 weeks later, he passed away, and instead of grieving, I returned to work the very next day. I buried my emotions, thinking it made me strong, when in reality it made me distant from everything human. In 1982, David had a championship basketball game and asked me to come. I promised him I would, but when the time came, I chose a client meeting instead. I told myself there would be more games. There weren't. That night he won, and he was the best player on the court. But when he looked into the stands, I wasn't there. That moment created a distance between us that never truly closed. Sometimes it only takes one broken promise to change how someone sees you forever. Emily was quieter, more sensitive. She loved painting and expressing herself through art. In 1985, she held her first exhibition and asked me not to miss it. But once again, I chose work. The next day, I saw a painting she had made, an empty chair labeled "For my father." That image hit me deeply, yet I still didn't change. That's the dangerous part about habits. They make even painful realizations feel temporary. You think you'll do better tomorrow, but tomorrow becomes another missed opportunity. By the 1990s, I had everything money could buy: a big house, cars, financial security. But inside, there was silence. Conversations with my family became rare and meaningless. Eventually, in 2001, Margaret asked for a divorce. She told me I was never truly present, and she was right. I had spent years physically there but emotionally absent. She left and I didn't stop her, because deep down I knew I had already lost her long before that moment. After the divorce, my children moved on with their lives. They built families of their own. But I was never truly part of them. I became someone who visited occasionally, someone distant. My grandchildren didn't know me, not because they didn't want to, but because I had never built that connection. Relationships don't grow automatically. They require time, effort, and presence. and I had failed to give any of that when it mattered most. When I retired, I finally had time, but nothing to do with it. No strong relationships, no hobbies, no real connections. My life had been entirely focused on work, and without it I felt empty. In 2015, Margaret passed away. When I saw her one last time, I apologized, but it was too late. That's the harsh truth about life. Some apologies lose their meaning when they come too late. Now at 83, I live with the weight of everything I missed. The house is full of memories I never truly lived. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Success without connection is emptiness. So don't wait. Don't postpone love. Choose your family, your moments, your people, today, because one day you'll realize that time was the only thing that truly mattered, and by then it may already be gone. Retirement was supposed to be the reward for a lifetime of hard work, but for me, it felt like stepping into an empty room with no purpose. I woke up every day with nothing urgent to do, nowhere important to be, and no one truly waiting for me. I tried filling the silence with television, books, and routine, but none of it replaced human connection. The truth hit me slowly. My entire life had been built around work, and without it I didn't know who I was. I had spent decades preparing for a future that when it finally arrived felt painfully meaningless and hollow. In 2015 I received the call that Margaret was seriously ill, cancer. Her husband Tom asked me if I wanted to see her. I went, not knowing what to expect. When I saw her lying there, weak and fragile, it felt like time had stopped. This was the woman I once promised a lifetime of love, yet I had given her absence instead. I held her hand and apologized, truly meaning it for the first time. She looked at me gently and said, "I know, Robert, but it's too late now." Those words didn't just hurt, they shattered everything I had been avoiding for years. At her funeral I stood quietly in the background, watching from a distance. My children were there, my grandchildren too, but they weren't near me. They were gathered around Tom, comforting him, supporting him, standing beside the man who had truly been present in their lives. And I realized something that day that I could no longer deny. I had lived a life that looked successful on the outside, but had completely failed where it mattered most. I had earned money, built a career, gained respect, but I had lost my family, their trust, and the moments that give life real meaning. Now, at 83 years old, I sit in a house filled with photographs that remind me of everything I missed. Pictures of birthdays, graduations, celebrations, all moments I wasn't truly part of. I look at them and feel like a stranger in my own life story. Time has a way of revealing what truly matters, but sometimes it reveals it too late. The silence around me is no longer peaceful. It's heavy with regret, because when everything slows down, you don't think about your achievements. You think about the people you should have held closer, the moments you should have chosen differently. So if you're listening to this, don't wait for a moment like mine to understand what truly matters. Work will always be there, responsibilities will never end, but the people in your life won't always have the same time. Go to that game. Sit with your parents. Take your spouse out, even if you're tired. Choose presence over pressure, love over deadlines, because one day you will look back, just like I am now, and in that moment you won't wish for more success, you'll wish for more time. And by then you may realize that time was the only thing you couldn't get back.